Alright, hey guys. Welcome back. So like I guess I'll just start doing videos on most of the stuff I do. Don't mind the stuff in the background. It's been a junk pile on my works outside here. But I'll start trying to do more of just my everyday stuff. But let's get started. So what this one's gonna get, this one is a, where did I put the, sorry, something in my, oh, I had it sitting right here next to me. Gotta go around the camera. That was smart. I just threw the screws all over the place. Anyways, there's those. Found all four. This one is a Husqvarna 125B leaf blower. It's an older leaf blower. What I'm gonna go over, we're gonna do the carburetor, and while we have it out here, we're gonna switch over to lines with our new lines here. This one came with the kit. I usually order them in kits because it's cheaper for me and the customer, and they're usually pretty good quality. This one has clear lines, which I thought was kind of weird, but hey, they should suit just fine. Why the other ones are yellow, I have no idea. So we're gonna replace the carburetor with the new carburetor here, all ready to go. We are gonna replace the fuel lines and the carburetor. Also, another reason I usually get the kits is because I'm guaranteed to get the seals. So here's you got a few different seals. We're gonna be using these two, I believe, and the third one's gonna be useless. We're gonna replace the spark plug and we get a new air filter, but we'll go over that here shortly. Now what you're gonna need to take this apart is for the carburetor right here. It's held on with two 8mm nuts here that just go on here. This goes on top, I mean over that, and then these two hold it in. That's for 8mm. Next up, and so you're gonna need that, and then you're gonna need for the 125B for this size spark plug that's on here, and for the new one that's with it, we're gonna take a 19mm, which is just under a 3/4 of an inch socket. And to get this plastic shroud off here, so this shroud just slips over on there like that. There are 1, 2, 3 T25, I think, yeah, T20 screws, the plastic screws that hold it in here. And then for this and the crank that goes over this, there are 4 T20 machine screws that go in there. If you're wondering why I'm using this as a work table, it's because everything else is filled up right now. And then you're gonna need a pair of pliers. This one got left out in the rain and I just found them. But so we'll clean them up later. But we're gonna take, there's 2 little clips on the back. Let's see if we can get them off right quick. Sometimes they can be a little stubborn. There we go. So this is the air filter housing and the carburetor mounting plate. I call it a mounting plate. We're not going to remove this primer, but this is a 2-port primer, not a 3. And we're not going to remove it from the carburetor since we're changing all this at one time. We're going to leave it on there. So we're going to take the carburetor off. That was the socket for the screwdriver. We're going to flip this around. Make sure you do not lose the orientation of this, because if you do, then you're going to be all sorts of screwed up. So we're going to have it this way. Carburetor is just about off there. For a new one, the reason I like to do it in this step is because if you flip this the wrong way, you won't even have it high idle or no idle sometimes at all. So we're going to make sure we have this the right way. We're going to come in here, and we almost flipped it over, and we're going to put this in there like so. There we go. There's our carburetor with this little tinsel on there. I'm gonna call it tinsel because I felt like calling it tinsel. Now with this, let me get. Sorry, thought I had my screwdriver sitting here. Let me grab it. All right, we got a screwdriver here. There is a gasket. This gasket right here that sandwiches itself. There's a. Let's see if we can get this in frame. There is a lip, the main lip here that goes out, and then a little inner lip that you would push into there, into the gas tank. Basically the same one we're taking off. Sometimes it helps to have a pair of pliers too. This one's in there pretty good. There we go. Sometimes they can just get jammed up in there and they can be a pain to get out sometimes. There we go. Put there. Put there. And then this one used to, screwdriver fell. This one used to be clear, and or no, this one was yellow. As you can see, they're old. They're not. This one's slightly still yellow, but not much. But there's our new gasket. Well, the type of gasket we're going to use and the type of gasket we're going to use. So I was actually wrong. We're going to use the other gasket on this one. But there we go, and there's that. And instead of dealing with the carburetor right this second, since I was taking it apart earlier, I'm going to take my T20 out. We're going to set it right there. A little impact. Take our 19mm socket and I mean, look at that thing. That's, I don't know what in the world happened there, but that thing is decaying and crumbling apart. I call it decaying. I don't know what it's actually oxidizing, I guess I should say, but oxidizing is the same thing as decaying. We're going to double check that our spark plugs are the same. We're going to start this one in by hand. That just makes sure that hardly any dirt gets in there. And we're going to put our impact, my impact on lowest setting. The reason for that is it doesn't need a whole lot of torque. There we go. We're going to switch back to our 8mm because we're not going to be using that 19mm anymore. We're going to go ahead and stick this back on there. Alright, there's the spark plug. Now with our gas tank, I find it easier to take the gas tank off, but in most cases it's not that easy. So I'm checking. First time I'm taking off the gas tank. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's not. Like on a weed eater, I find it a lot easier. Just leave it on the I find it easier just to leave it on the weed eater if I'm putting fuel lines on. Drop my screw here. Oh, I grab it. There's our two screws. These are two plastic T20 screws. This one still had a little bit of gas in it. That's all right. You see all this gunk around it? You want to try to keep that out because you're going to be working on this. All you need to use is your finger. It doesn't matter if a tiny bit of stuff gets in there. We're going to take our new setup here and we're going to put it down in there. Now to get this in there, you're going to put it at a slight, oh, I'm not even in frame, a slight angle. Then I take the flathead screwdriver. In this case, the bigger, the better. And we're going to push down around the lip here. I'll undo this. I have a little bit of pressure in there when I put that in. there's that in. This thing does face that one particular way. So we're gonna come in and grab it with this, with our pliers here. We're gonna twist it, make sure everything's fitting right. You don't want to kink in this seal here. If you have a kink, it will probably leak. So there was a kink there, and there was a kink there. I just took them out with the pliers a little bit. I'm gonna leave that undone. Hopefully it stays like that. Now we're gonna shove this back in there, just like so. Take our 2 screws here. Now you might be asking, why are you replacing the entire carburetor instead of just replacing the diaphragms in there? The main thing comes down to cost. This carburetor just so happens to be, I want to say it was like 13 bucks for the carburetor and everything. Or no, $16 for everything. This is not a Husqvarna carburetor. This is a Chinese aftermarket. There's almost no difference between Chinese aftermarket and OEM parts, and it's just so happens even that carburetor right there might have been made in the same factory this carburetor right here is made. What they do is they buy, or they do a knockoff, or they actually go through a legitimate source and they buy the schematics for this carburetor and they start producing the carburetor. Pretty much these aren't very complex things. They have pretty much one standard of alloy that they use for all carburetors. There's a few different ones, but pretty much it's standard across the board, and so there's really no harm in using these aftermarket carburetors. So what I'm gonna do, so I have that on there, I'm gonna look at this just so I make sure that I'm not putting it in the wrong way. So the small nipple on here, which is the bottom one in this case, goes on the top section here. Dealing with some mosquitoes here. Freaking things. And then this short one goes on the bottom. We'll keep this out of the way until I'm ready. And we're going to slide that onto there. Bring this one over. And that one's just about ready to go. Come on, set up right there. We're going to take our seals. And I save all my seals that I don't use. So here's our 3 seals. We're going to take that. So this one is the one that goes. This seal here is the one we're going to be using. That goes. This seal here is the one we're going to be using. That one goes on the outside. We're going to flip this over. We see a 2-port, but only 1 port's being used. And it's in the center. We're going to be using this one, and this one gets saved for a different project. This is our inner seal. We got to make sure that that goes in the right way. So in this case, it goes on this way. There we go. We're going to put this one on now. There we go. Now we're going to take our pliers, we're going to scoop this fuel line on there a little bit more. That's one, two, there we go. There's that. We're going to take our trigger here, make sure that stays on. This goes on here like so, I want to say. Is that right? Nope. Hold on. There we go. That's how our trigger goes on. Double check here, make sure we have this line looped around there. That's why it was stuck there. And when we do this, Works perfectly. We're gonna put our carb in the choke position. We're gonna take our seal here. This was gonna be our outer seal. Let me show you that again. I don't know if that was in camera. So outer seal, outer seal. You see how they're different? These are for different carburetors. These would be breather ports. Like we have on this one, it was on the inner side. This one doesn't have one. But we can still use the seal because it still seals it up since it's up against a flat surface. We got our tank in, we got our fuel lines in. We are now make sure we put ours in the right place. These two little squares go to the two little clips on here. And I think I got that tightened. We're gonna put that. There we go. We're gonna line these up. We're gonna put our arm, the blue, what I call the arm is the blue thing right there. And we're gonna stick them in there like that. There we go. We're gonna take our 8mm socket here, switch out our T20, since we were using the gas tank, the T20 on the gas tank. And grab our two 8mm nuts here. Alright, there's that one. And these are pretty deep down in there, so you don't want an extension or a deep well. I give mine two little taps. So now this carburetor is pretty much secured. We have checked this, but one more time. We can see everything right here. I also have my this one for this carburetor. It takes a spline adjustment screwdriver. So that's what that's for. We may or may not need that. We're gonna put our carburetor on here in a few minutes. We're gonna set that actually to the side. And we can now toss this one into, this is actually probably don't be used as my parts carburetor. I have a whole stockpile of parts carburetors. And we're gonna switch back over to our T20, because we're gonna need that here in a second because we're about to put it all back together. So we got our spark plug changed out. It's really easy to change them out while you have the whole thing apart. We have our carburetor in with new seals, just because it's cheaper. We're gonna take this is our exhaust shroud. And there's two little clips on this one. You just wanna make sure it goes on there like so. Make sure those are in there. It just kind of stays there. And this piece goes over. On here, you want that all the way down. There, oh wait. Sorry. Yeah, you want that all the way. You want it from up all the way down. That's interlocks with this piece right here, and that's what gives you your basically cruise control on your weed eater. Make sure it's in the right spot. This little fin right here goes behind it. Sometimes these ignition coils can get in the way. Don't try to force it on. If it doesn't go on, see what it's hitting. There we go. We want that on there, like so. Voila. Now we gotta get our top here all put together. This one has a stop button right here that we had to get around. Let me grab my screws. And this is what I'm talking about. So the way you identify a machine screw from a plastic screw. These right here are plastic screw. Machine screws right here. This one right here. This one right here is a plastic screw. Way you tell the difference is the thread size. Here. The thread size. This one's for machine, this one's for plastic. We got our T20 in hand. I'll go ahead and pre-mount this. Way you can get this to go on there, just pull the cord slightly and it will engage, the sprocket will engage the flywheel. This goes there. That one goes there. And these last ones go down here. Now I only have these set in place, so that's why I'm not torquing them down. Because if I do, it'll take the whole thing and I might lose a screw. So now they're all inserted. We're gonna put a low torque. There's that one. There's that one. There's that one. Now these four. Now these do not go on there that easily. All these pieces don't go on there that. Check and see what you're hitting because you don't want to screw up something. So that's our basically full throttle just held there. And then we have this right here. You can see the thing moving here. Can't remember what it's called. We're gonna grab our air filter cover. I had my air filter cover sitting right next to me. I thought I did anyways. Unless I set it over here. Did I set it right here? No. Where did I put my air filter cover? See, I do this to myself sometimes. Did I set it right here? It's not. Maybe. Well, guys, I've lost maybe this is it. I don't think it is. No, that's not it. It fell off. I guess I bumped it. It fell off what I had sitting right next over there. Grab the air filter. So we have an air filter. And this just plops in there like so. You want to make sure there's no kinks in your air filter. If there's kinks, you gotta let grass through. But more importantly, it starts looking funky on your retainer, or you might break something if you do it too hard. We're gonna put our choke lever all the way into the run position because it makes it easier to put things together. And there we go. Oh, strange. Let's check this. It looks like our threads might be damaged. This air filter cover I thought was just not screwed on earlier, but you can tell. So we'll have to fix that at a later date. Just not right this second. So what I'm doing, I'm just threading this in. And all it does need is a new bolt. That's really easy to get. We'll take a measurement off of it later. There we go. There we go, it got in there. So now it's all done. Now we're gonna crank it up and test it. First thing we're gonna do, we're gonna put it in full choke. Push our primer. Working perfectly. Push it about 10 times or so, and then let's try to start it. Let's put it at half choke. See if it idles? It's not even idling, so all we're gonna do is we're gonna go in here. I'm not gonna put it on video. All we're gonna do is take the screwdriver, put it in on the low side and the high side, and we're gonna get it tuned in. Other than that, you see it runs. Before it couldn't even do that. So, new carburetor fixed our problem. New spark plug. Spark plug on the old one was still good. We tested the spark plug. The spark plug, not the electricity coming to the spark plug. We checked the physical spark plug. And that worked, so we knew it was the carburetor. But it was just cheaper to put a new carburetor on there instead of putting new diaphragms in it. But yeah, y'all have a good one. Thanks. Bye.